What up, guys? The Bench Buddies are back with my Week 18 power rankings. As you can see here, the biggest movers are the Raiders after winning two straight. The Texans fallen after an ugly loss. And, luckily they got the AFC South. But we'll jump into it too. And talking about the AFC South, you find two of the four teams here. Jaguars, Titans. Jaguars beat the Titans, so they move up. Titans officially the worst team in football, as the Giants, Browns, and Titans all are 3 and 13, so they're fighting for that number one pick. It's a big week for them. Browns especially, who knows what they're going to do in the near future. Quarterback situation, even maybe Watson. I know that all that guaranteed money. So they got a lot to think about this offseason along with all these other teams. But the Jaguars especially, really bad year for them. Lawrence goes down, gets hurt, playoff chances out the window. So Jaguars could be a team next year that could make some noise if they can draft well. 25 through 28. Patriots are also in that category with the 3 and 13 fighting for that number one pick. The Bears, Raiders, it's been kind of a disappointing year, but the Raiders have won two straight, like I said, and they're not out of the running for the number one pick, but need a lot to happen for it to come to fruition. The Bears, who knows what they're going to do this offseason. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of changes there. Then the Saints, we're playing some good football early this year, started 2-0. Derek Carr was on a tear, then all of a sudden just fell apart. So the Saints need some consistency, a new head coach and some new weapons, honestly, on offense, and really to assess that quarterback position, whether it is going to be Derek Carr moving forward. In 21 through 24, there's teams on here that had some down years, like the Niners and the Jets. Colts, right in the middle, kind of where we thought they would be. Then the Panthers are starting to play some better football now that Bryce Young has started to figure it out, and I think they could be an interesting team moving forward. And if they want to be the Slim Reaper, Bryce Young, he can beat the Falcons this week, knock them out of the playoffs. So a lot of these teams on here are looking to play spoiler with the Jets included. 17 through 20, we finally see some really big movement here in the Texans. Like I said, losing to the Ravens 2 to 31. Ugly game from the Texans standpoint. Just couldn't get anything going. And they get the Titans in Tennessee. Road game doesn't mean anything. They're locked into the four. So don't be surprised if they kind of just ho-hum this game. Falcons, you got to beat the Panthers and need a Bucks loss to get in after their loss in overtime to the Commanders. Cardinals lose a heartbreaker to the Rams and knock them out of the playoffs officially. They get the Niners this week in just another game. Then the Cowboys got the Commanders, can change some playoff seeding if the Cowboys were to win that game. But last week's performance at Philly kind of shows this Cowboys team is already checked out. 13 through 16, you got three of the teams here competing for the last seed in the AFC. Broncos currently hold it, the seven seed that is. And if they were to win against the Chiefs, which they're favored by 11 right now because the Chiefs aren't playing anybody, the Broncos are in the playoffs. But if the Broncos lose, Bengals win, they're in. Now, if both those teams lose, Dolphins win, Dolphins are in. That simple. So need a lot to happen for the Dolphins, kind of the Bengals, and then the Broncos just got to take care of business to get in. And then you have Seattle, who's 9 and 7, and it's not going to make the playoffs no matter what happens. The Rams hold tiebreaker over the Seahawks, even if they were to win that game. They both finished 10 and 7. Rams are already in the playoffs. So unfortunately for the Seahawks, they are not making the playoffs this year. 9 through 12, you have teams that are in the playoffs and a team looking to get into the playoffs. The Bucks, they win this game, they're in against the Saints, their bitter rival at home. They should take care of business the way the Saints are playing, but this is the Saints game where they have nothing to lose. Last game of the season could ruin the season. So they're probably going to get their best out of the Saints. Commanders, like I said, go on the road, play for seeding against the Cowboys. Chargers as well. They're already in the playoffs, but they get the Raiders on their own, who've been playing some good football. Then the Steelers get the Bengals, and I overlooked it last slide because of this game. The Steelers need to win this game, not only for morale, but this team is just probably going to be the worst playoff team getting into the playoffs at this point because they just can't find ways to win games, and they don't show up in these big games here in the last half of the season. It's been a disappointing end to their regular season, but a win here can definitely propel them and give them some hope heading into the playoffs. 5 through 8, Packers falling to the Vikings, didn't show up for the first, I guess you could say, 3 quarters, 3.5 quarters, and then show up late against the Vikings. Just it was too much of a deficit to get out of. Now the Packers, doesn't matter what they do, they're making the playoffs here. Are they going to rest the starters, play them against the Bears? To be determined. But the Packers really got to figure that out because they lost two of the Vikings, two of the Lions, and one of the Eagles, and that's their 5 losses right there. All the teams they're going to have to get through in the NFC if they want to get to the Super Bowl. The Rams won 6 straight, I believe it is, 5 or 6 straight. They're on fire. Get the Seahawks at home. and they can keep going. I think this Rams team is that Super Bowl run team that, isn't the top team in the NFC, but I think they can definitely make a run for the Super Bowl because we've seen it with Stafford, Kupp, and Puka healthy. This team is hard to stop. And oh yeah, they also have Kyron Williams, who's been a top five running back this year. Top five running backs included in that list are Derrick Henry and Eagle and with the Ravens, and then the Eagles having Saquon Barkley, obviously running wild last week, and they continue to do so. Obviously, Saquon 101 yards away from the record. So is he going to do it this week? We don't know if he's even going to try it out there, but it would be cool to see if he at least attempted to do so. Both these teams looking like juggernauts at this point in the season, and I wouldn't be shocked if that's a Super Bowl matchup that we get to see as well. And 1 through 4 stays the same with all of them winning. Bills convincing win over the Jets. They were up 40 to nothing. Chiefs dominated the Steelers and kind of was expected on Christmas. Lions not squeak out a win in San Francisco, but their defense just isn't what it was at the beginning of the year. So this is kind of the scores you're going to see here. The Lions are going to put up probably 30 plus points in the playoffs. It's going to be a matter if you can somehow stop that offense when you need to. Then the Vikings squeak by the Packers after a late comeback, but a win is a win. Vikings do enough to get the win, and obviously those two teams are playing for the number one seed in the NFC this week. Sunday Night Football, huge game, probably the biggest game of both franchises to this point in recent years. And whoever gets that one seed, I think, might just go all the way in the NFC. Now, if you get the 5 seed, you're probably going to play either the NFC West winner or either the Rams or the Bucks slash Falcons, whoever wins that division, depending on results there. But I'm sure more than they can imagine that they want this number one seed. So make sure you watch that game. And I think the Chiefs can actually beat the Broncos even with Carson Wentz because we saw what he did last year with the Rams in Week 18. They got a win there. And Carson Wentz is a good quarterback. People forget that he probably was going to win the MVP the year they won the Super Bowl before he got hurt. So going against the Broncos, this Broncos team's kind of in a hole and they can't get out of it. I like the Chiefs, honestly, to upset them. So that's one of my sleeper picks this week. But that's going to be it for my Week 18 power rankings. Check back next week for my playoff power rankings. I'm going to be ranking them from chances to win a Super Bowl. So make sure you don't miss that. But until the next time, the Bench Buddies are out.